Welcome to episode 3 of the Vodcast, which was no name yet. We're still working on that. My name is Logan Edmonds. I'm with Tabernacle Technology Solutions in Columbus, Ohio.
Paul Mancuso with Vital Integrators in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Niles Binghauser with TechStop in Prescott, Arizona.
Okay, so as the title suggests, phishing. I think everybody's heard that word at this point, even if they don't know exactly what that means. And to be clear, PH, not FISH. PH,
Man,
phishing. I love going fishing, but I don't like fishing. Yeah, that's confusing really quick. So, I mean, why is it such a big deal? Let's start there, I guess. Like, why is it such a big deal to get these? I mean, we've been getting scammy emails. I mean, I was a kid in the early 2000s when I was going, and this is dating myself a little bit, and maybe don't get mad, but I'm like, I was in elementary school in the year 2000, like, we got the Nigerian Prince emails. They were annoying, don't get me wrong, but it was a joke. Why has that changed? Let's start there.
Well, and do we want to maybe give a rundown for people not quite familiar with what it means?
Oh, yeah, it's probably a good idea. Paul, you're pretty good at summing things up. Let's let you do this.
I was actually thinking of an analogy, and when you were talking about that, about what phishing is, and basically it's sometimes it can be targeted, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's just casting this big net, trying to send a link or trick somebody into giving up their password, either via a link or some sort of email scam. And they only need it to be right once. So it doesn't matter if they send it to 100 people, they just need one person to click on it. I don't know if y'all have ever been to Las Vegas, but they always have these people that are on the streets and they're trying to hand out these business cards for, not the greatest things, right? And it's really like that.
It took me a second to place what you were saying. I was like, wait, what's he going with this?
But they literally, I mean, they're on the street corners and they're passing these cards out to every single person that passes by. And most of the time you see them on the ground all over the place. Nobody's actually doing anything with them. But they just need that one person, right?
No, I guess that's worth talking about, because that's the first thing that needs to be understood is, like, people think because, the technology has grown so quickly and so rapidly that this might be kind of a headache for some organizations. Like, we're talking about cyber criminals and gangs of cyber criminals to orchestrate these campaigns of emails. It's really not that hard or that expensive for them. Like, it's dirt cheap. They can throw out 1,000 emails, and if one person clicks their email, they make an investment they don't only make their investment back, they make a return on investment.
Well, and I know we probably all know customers and people in our area that have been affected by breaches or things that have happened that came through because of an email that got through or something. And that's something we have a constant conversation with our clients about, like why we don't whitelist certain email addresses, right? And if you don't know what that is, it's like, okay, why do we not, I don't want this email to get stuck in our spam filter or our quarantine, so we just want to whitelist it so it never happens. Well, if they ever get breached, you're basically bypassing all the protections.
I've had that happen more than once. Now, let's talk real quick then, so people can understand. There's actually different kinds of phishing, and they have different levels of severity and kind of the threat models. Can you share your screen for that screenshot we had up earlier?
Yeah. Let me get that going.
And I'll add it in. Fantastic. So, there's more than these 4 categories, obviously, but we can focus on these 4, which is, you've got email phishing, which is general. I would say it's the middle mark. Like, email-based phishing is the middle mark between a spear phishing attack and a bulk phishing, where bulk phishing, let's start there probably because it's easier to understand. Bulk phishing is the Nigerian Prince, right? Casting as wide as net as possible, just shotgunning everything, trying to figure out, if we keep saying the same phishing email over and over and over and over and over and over and over to as many people as we can, sooner or later we're going to get someone to click. And you guys can tell me if you agree with this or not. Most bulk phishing emails, with a few exceptions, fairly easy to detect as long as you know what you're looking for. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, if you just hop into your junk folder or your spam folder, you're going to see tons of examples of this. There's some generic subject lines that are meant to entice you to click on it and follow their instructions, whether it's get this free or you'll never believe this, like some news article or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think bulk phishing is probably what people are most familiar with, without maybe realizing that there's these other methods being used nowadays too.
Oh yeah, bulk phishing's been around for 20 plus years now. Paul, would you agree? Now, my next assessment is with the email-based phishing. I see more and more of these, and they do have an increasing threat vector where they start putting some details in the email. I won't say it's a full-blown like they're targeting you individually, but these emails are a lot more sophisticated, right? Like they're more realistic. One I keep getting lately is like a fake DocuSign. Like, hey, sales at DocuSign at business.now or something like that. It looks on the surface completely legitimate. And if you're a business owner like me, you're signing agreements, it feels like every day. So that one, again, someone being vigilant, I think could see that pretty quickly, but it's much more realistic to expect someone to fall for something like that than the Nigerian prince,
Yeah, and I think with your email based phishing, what's interesting is even the people that are skilled in identifying these things, they make them so realistic now. If you're busy in your day to day, business of running your company and just checking emails and all these things that you normally do on a day to day basis, it's very easy to look at and, oh, this is Microsoft. Oh, I need to sign in and put your password, or Adobe or things like that. So you really knowing what to look for in those areas, like the making sure that, like you mentioned, the domain name is actually where it's supposed to be. It's not something else. But what was interesting about all those four categories you had is the huge percentage increase from the previous year of businesses that have actually experienced these different types.
And we will put this in the show notes. This is a screenshot from an article written by VentureBeat in February of 2022. But yeah, no, that was the thing that caught my eye too, is like 20 email-based phishing, the ones that are kind of realistic. That was 57% successful. Like that was, or 20 in 2020. Now it's 57% of organizations in 2020 said something like this got through us. 2021, 83%. Like it just shot up. And that tells me either they're getting better, they're getting more frequent, or both. And I think the answer is
all four of these are very close to that 80% average, right? So you got to figure 80% of the time they're successful at it, right?
Well,
or it's gone up by that much, like 80%. And I don't know what y'all are. We find on average we're blocking about 50% of all email that comes into our system, and that still has some that get through.
Yeah, and hang on a second. Sorry, I had to click out something. Let's talk real quick. Like, why? Why are they doing this? Like, why? What's the point of phishing people? Well, we kind of touched a little bit on it, but Niles, you go. Why are we doing this?
First of all, someone doesn't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again unless there's some benefit. Or I guess if they're crazy, but that's the thing, is that cybercrime is a huge industry, and they keep using these tactics because it works. They're making so much money. That's ultimately their end goal most of the time. Sometimes there's some other reasons they might be doing this, but for your average Joe cyber criminal, they just want to make money. And these types of attacks that we're talking about with email attacks, it's cheap and easy for them to employ it, and the return on their investment is huge.
I mean, if we talk about like the most publicized groups of hackers, or cyber criminals rather, that get in the news, we talk about ransomware gangs inevitably, because they tend to be the top of the list. And you see some of the bigger ones, like they're pulling in billions of dollars worth a year of revenue just from doing this kind of stuff, because it all ends up into a payday for them. I think there's a great example of what phishing can accomplish. Click the wrong phishing email and you can launch a ransomware attack on your organization.
Yeah, some of the numbers I've seen for these automated email campaigns, I think the top amount that someone was making was like $40,000 a day, by just automatically sending these out, getting people to click on them.
So it makes sense all of a sudden to shotgun, 10,000 of these a day, or however many they're doing, because they're getting, 86% success rates. Because again, All they need is one person to fall for it, and they can get the whole organization, depending on how the organization's set up. I mean, that's if I'm an investor, I do a lot of work with investment companies. That's a surefire investment right there. Like in my mind, like that's very little to contribute, guaranteed profit. You'd be dumb not to invest in it, barring the fact it's a criminal
I
enterprise.
think too, what people need to understand from a mindset perspective is it's very rare that you're just going to happen upon some link on the internet that's going to just install ransomware everywhere, right? I mean, it's possible, but 92 to 94% of all of these threats come through email, and there's a reason. And it's the human element that we don't talk about. We try to put all the prevention and stuff in place, but at the end of the day, if you click the wrong email, if you click the wrong link, all the all the setup that you have in place is going to not work in every scenario, right? And you've got really that human element is kind of what needs to be trained and just identified. Even the most savvy tech users, it's just getting harder and harder. I mean, these gangs of criminals have literally built companies. They hire people on Craigslist and say, "Hey, here's our statement of work."
Did you guys see the Conti story, the Conti ransomware gang story, where they have like an internal HR department? Like that cracked me up. Like they actually have a guy they hired for HR to hire other cyber criminals or more
But that's
guys.
the
Like,
mindset.
wow.
People need to understand what it is, right? Like it's not what it used to be, where the Nigerian prince thing, right? It's not. That's just a very simple email that they sent out, but they're getting more and more sophisticated, more and more organized, more and more of a target. And that's why it's very important to be vigilant with the end users, and not, technology is always playing a game of catch up, right?
I mean, yeah, it's not the same thing as 20 years ago. 20 years ago was kind of the hacker culture that we talk about. Like the movie Hackers is a great example of this, right? I was like, yeah, well, it's a bunch of slightly emo, introverted guys, just trying to see what they could break into and do fun stuff. And but it was all in a spirit of creativity, I feel like, and there probably still is some of that, but the overall mind shift of this community in terms of the cyber criminal side of things has definitely shifted more into either hacktivism or even more primarily profit. Either one of them is not great for the average business. Like it causes downtime. Let's go back to that screenshot real quick. I'm going to go ahead and pull it back up because there's two more categories we should touch on real quick. So spear phishing, I'll take this one. High level notice, someone's researched you. Someone's gotten on your website, gotten on your social media, pulled relevant details and inserted them in a way in the phishing campaign that makes them seem more legitimate, whether it's impersonating a vendor that you're used to corresponding with, a customer, an outside party that you would expect communication from. The whole point of it is to make the email as realistic as possible in a spear phishing attack so that you are more likely to fall for it. Now, that requires a little more investment on the cyber criminal side of things to actually do the research. But even that's becoming less and less thanks to the proliferation of things like LinkedIn profiles, Facebook, campaigns on the websites. I mean, like we keep giving more data to the internet to make this easier and easier. So there's that. And 79% of organizations this last year saw at least one spear phishing attack, according to this article. And a lot of these end up into an end game, in my opinion. That's the fourth category: business email compromise. Business email compromise is all the rage right now. BEC attacks. Does anyone want to trade? Who wants to be the guy who explains BEC?
Yeah. So, I mean, at its core, it means they get into your email system and they can start sending out emails as you. Your email system is compromised. They can look at emails you've been sending, receiving, and doing reconnaissance and really getting a lot of information because they're in your email system. They can get a lot of information to deploy much more sophisticated scams from there.
Yeah. I mean, and even more that like reading, like just like how much stuff is in our email that's relevant to daily business operations. Someone gets in my email, they've got, like, as bad as the saying, I do my best to clean my own email out. But the kind of communications I get on a daily basis, they've got more than enough ammo to cause severe harm to my business. Like that is a big thing. How many of them right now are we seeing where it's like, we'll get your email, we'll figure out who your clients are or who your vendors are, and will sit there for a few months. And then what we'll inevitably do is wait for that bill that's coming in from your vendor, or that bill you're getting ready to send your client, and we'll piggyback on that and just change the routing information. Like we're seeing so many of those right now where, especially with bigger, I think contracting companies, like construction companies in particular, tend to be pretty susceptible to that because it's usually big installments. And so, oh, we got a construction project. There's the email we're expecting with the bill. Here's the wiring information. We're already expecting it because it's been in the works for months. Send the money. Next thing you know, you've wired $50, $75, $100,000 to an account that you have no control over. And most people don't know this. FDIC, the thing that insures our bank accounts, doesn't cover wire fraud. That's the first thing you're going to learn when you go through that process.
And we've seen exactly that type of scam happen here in Prescott, Arizona. We're small town USA, and we've seen it happen. I think in the last year, we've seen 3 or 4 clients get hit with stuff like this. And, unless you have additional protections in place, you're not even going to know it happened till it's too late.
I think the average going rate I've been seeing, because we've had the same thing where several clients that have been hit or have been attempted to be hit, is somewhere between the tune of 75 to 120,000. But it's not done all at once. It's usually done in installments, like, hey, with 10 here, 15 here, trying to get, as realistic as possible. They don't want to trip anybody up to knowing that they're in there.
Yeah. Well, and the average time it takes to discover a breach like this is around 4 months.
I think it's longer. It's getting longer. I was talking to some insurance professionals. I don't have data yet to back that up, so I'm not going to quote anything. But they're saying, honestly, they're seeing longer, like 6 months plus.
Yeah.
Well, and talking about, like, you brought up insurance, and I mean, that's something I'm seeing with our clients and stuff. The insurance applications for cybersecurity insurance is just getting ridiculous as far as the requirements. But one of the best ways, and again, kind of what we were talking about is the human element to all of this and the training and understanding that stuff. But part of what I'm seeing on applications, for instance, for ACH transactions, the insurance company wants to know, what is your policy for that?
Do you have a plan? I just filled out my application yesterday, and I'm looking at that. I'm like,
they want to know, do you have 2 signatures? Do you have, like, what is your policy to make sure you're not doing this through email? And so they're trying to, even that industry is trying to kind of guide the human element side of cybersecurity, and that's really what we have to help educate people on as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they are counting on the fact that no human is infallible. That's what these cyber criminals are counting on. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how competent you are. It doesn't matter anything. Like, you have bad days. Everyone has bad days. Everyone slips up. Everyone makes mistakes. If they keep hammering over and over and over in one of these methodologies, they're going to get in sooner or later. Like, that's the bad news. The good news, though, and we talked about this before we got on the call, there is stuff you can do to minimize that chance. We're not saying you can eliminate it, but there's proactive steps where you can do to significantly reduce this risk. Paul, you were talking about this. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, you can put in all the spam filters and multi-factor authentication, all that stuff in place, but at the end of the day, what is your staff doing? How are they identifying things? How are they noticing your email? Are you doing fake phishing email campaigns where you send an email test to see who clicks on it, right? I mean, it's hard to, on our side, it's like, okay, we're going to cast a net to our clients and to people that we work with. We're going to kind of see what they click on. So we're kind of doing the same thing, right? So instead of just casting this net or this information, this is how you do it. If you're engaged in some of those practices of doing a fake phishing simulation, then you can really help the people and go do one-on-one. This is why. This is what you clicked on. This is why it wasn't. And you can really kind of help focus and train that person, and really just help building those internal policies too.
And I would add a secondary note to that, which is help people get familiar with the kind of scams they can expect to see. I'm not saying you have 100% knowledge, but one of the big ones I'm seeing right now is social media cloning. Some hacker sets up a cloned social media account of a friend or a family member, and they impersonate them saying, hey, I have to delete my account for some made-up reason, accept my friend requests. And then they use that, using that instinctual trust that you have. And we've always had this problem, but now we're seeing literally like duplicate cloned accounts in bulk, just shotgunning people. I probably had at least 6 requests in the last 2 months. So that's one thing right there. train your employees to recognize that that's going on. If you get a friend request from someone that you know, as a family member or a friend or someone you're already friends with, maybe raise an eyebrow.
And how often do businesses need to be training their employees?
I'd say consistently. I mean, you can set a timeline, but honestly, the best options on the market right now are the things where you say, just fulfill this amount of training per month and do it on your own time. And there's online platforms and tools where, you know, I am not a big believer in the security seminar. I think you guys would say the same thing, because when you do the 2-hour cybersecurity training seminars, people's eyes just glass over. Like, I get it. It's not the most attractive topic to talk about in detail for long periods of time. Not everybody is cybersecurity specialists, but we have to
that's
impress that.
What we do is we have a little bit longer training every year, but then our clients are set up so every week they get a small 3 to 5 minute training, and it keeps it top of mind, because like we've been talking about, it just takes one little slip up basically, and it can cause a lot of harm.
But that key phrase, I think, is what's so important, is you got to keep it front and center. Like, cybersecurity has to be a culture in your business, and it can't be like an afterthought. It can't be, oh, now we're going to focus on this. We just got breached. No, it needs to be how to prevent and minimize that risk. And that's all part of training your staff and making it part of what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we need to tell people, is this isn't going to go away. I mean, the last 10 years, I have a stat I throw around all the time, which is the high-end estimates just for ransomware of $6 trillion worth of revenue was generated with the T. Like, there's just no incentive for this to stop anywhere on the horizon that we can see. Barring something, world catastrophic that knocks the internet offline, it's going to keep happening. So if that's the case, it should be part of your business operations, the plan for this stuff in some way, shape, or form.
And you can relate it to companies who take physical safety seriously. They have safety training on a regular basis. They've got, those posters up in the break room, right? But you can tell everyone understands, like, look, this is to keep me safe. Obviously, my employer doesn't want to pay workers' comp, but the main driving force, it helps me as an employee.
My wife hates that, because that means that whenever some of my employees are going to do something borderline dangerous, I'm the one volunteering to do it, because it's like, I'm not paying for no workers' comp. I'm going to go do this. I can't sue myself.
but that's the same thing we need to have for cybersecurity. The same way we take physical security seriously, cybersecurity is, nearly as important.
I agree. I think so. The big takeaway here is this is a problem. Statistically speaking, it's going to get through sooner or later to your business. There are direct financial consequences when the stuff goes down, one way, shape, or form. And we could talk about that all day on the various ways this goes down. But not all doom and gloom. You can do things to mitigate your risk in a similar equivalent fashion that putting on a seatbelt when you're driving mitigates your risk of death. Doing safe driving habits, even same thing. Not leaving lit rags in your living room and not expecting your house to burn down on fire. That mitigates your chances of your house burning down a lot. Like, and I'm being a little facetious now, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there are things you can do. And the biggest one we believe right off the bat is education. It's a people problem. Phishing is a people problem. It's people trying to trick other people, trying to scam other people. It's a century, if not millennia old time classic thing. It's just now it's much more easier to do. So help your people become more savvy. Help them to get some more street smarts in this game so that they can properly defend themselves.
Yeah, and that's key. We definitely recommend having multi-layers, and a lot of that is technical solutions. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we put in place if your employee is just going to open the door wide to a hacker and let them right in. So training is, number one.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're good. Unless anybody else has any comments, questions, concerns, life, school, dreams, aspirations, anything like that. Paul, you wrote a book. I promise you we talk about it.
I did write
a book.
First solo book I've written. Yeah, all about church service production, and it's been awesome to do that. And
what's the title of your book?
Church service production.
Church service production, guys. Look it up on Amazon.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, I'm Logan Edmonds of Tabernacle Technology Solutions, coming from you at Columbus, Ohio.
Paul Mancuso, Vital Integrators in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Niles Banghauser with TechStop in Prescott, Arizona.
See y'all guys next time.
Until next time. See y'all.